demonstrates it. It shows it. You know, as troops come to my ranch and try to take my resources. And in fact, there's a great scene. You know, I'm a helicopter pilot, so I have a helicopter battle with a Huey flown by the top helicopter stunt pilot in the world, and we do a dance in the sky where he's trying to get missile lock.
I should add dangerous dance from what I mean. This is.
Oh, the executive producer is flying his own helicopter.
In a 30-knot crosswind, 15 feet from the other helicopter. It was so cool getting to do that. But you know, it's fun, and yet it's very serious. People need to aware of what's really going on. And these are not, you know, things that might happen. This is stuff that's codified into law today that are a direct threat to our freedoms. So we're telling that story.
And during a financial collapse, they say they're going to seize infrastructure and land and have forced labor.
And in this financial collapse, that is imminent. I mean, you can't print money and buy your own debt indefinitely. If you could do that, Zimbabwe would be one heck of a success story.
Or Weimar Germany.
Yeah. By the way, we have 2 curves in Zimbabwe, so they're quite successful, by the way. So, you know, in my worldwide experience, being in 90 countries, including 200 locations in Ukraine, you know, has really given me an insight much broader than you would expect.
Aren't the Ukrainian ladies beautiful?
Oh, they all are over there. It's amazing. And I like to take a little credit for it. We've been
you got them working out,
cleaning them up and helping them restore their beauty. But back to the governor. One of the opportunities I had was to really speak truth to power. And I believe the Texas government is an amazing thing. I was one of 150 people on the platform, on the podium when the governor gave his speech, and he and the lieutenant governor, they said to the public, and not a lot of people saw this, they said, we will sign no laws that are not consistent with our Judeo-Christian values. You would not have heard that from any platform in any state in the country but Texas.
In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act, George Orwell.
That's exactly right. Well, I believe that, and I believe God has shown me that Texas is going to be a sanctuary. God has given us good government.
See, my uncle said that.
Really?
Yeah, and he died last year, but he was a very deep Christian, very devout, and he believed that.
You know, the Bible says that there'll be a place in the wilderness for the woman, and I believe Texas is going to be a place in the wilderness for free-minded people to go to.
So the real free state.
Yeah, and I believe it'll happen. And I believe that I've been privileged to spend time with the governor and the attorney general, by the way, who's the chief law enforcement officer of the state, to teach them and prepare them for what's coming. And they've been very receptive to what I've been talking about. So and then we had the evidence.
Well, Gary, you are slick. I'm ready to buy. I'm ready to buy snow cones in Antarctica right now.
He's like E.F. Hutton, isn't he? When Gary talks, people listen.
I tell you, when you got the truth on your side, it's pretty
absolutely
convincing. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. And again, I commend you for telling the truth to so many.
Please continue.
Well, we saw the evidence of the governor being willing to protect the citizens of his state with... and
repeat that. You told me, you said it earlier, but you got cut off at the break. Yeah. I mean, because you told me this again back in February, and you just talked to him like a month before. Specifically, he was sworn in. Specifically, you said, you're going to have this challenge. It's going to happen. And then describe how he was like, really? And
yeah. Well, keep in mind, when Greg Abbott was the Attorney General of Texas, he sued the federal government 28 times, more than anybody has ever done before. Everything from the EPA, you know, coming into Texas trying to dictate. He won the only 10 Commandments defense.
He's put thousands of DPS on the border, and they're calling him a kook, trying to remove him.
So this man is already very, very knowledgeable in the overreach of the federal government. But I was in a meeting with him early on, and I said, you realize that the president can take command of the Texas National Guard away from you. And he didn't know that. And I showed him the evidence of it under National Defense Authorization Act, and he was pretty astounded.
Yeah, 2007.
Yeah. Well, the 2012 was really the nasty one.
You're right, but it started with the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, and then Obama accelerated it.
And they simply renew it each year. And the Republicans have signed on to this as well as the Democrats. That's kind of another topic, but let's touch on it.
They'll go over it. You know, we're going to skip this network break. Go ahead.
You know, we know the Democrats are sold out socialists. You know, they have bought
openly evil.
Yeah, and when you know your enemy, that's one thing. But the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, are the enemy in our own camp. They're the real danger. And I was explaining this to John Cornyn, Senator Cornyn from Texas. You know,
tell the crowd right out there. There's a camera.
Okay, I said, Senator, you know, you've got one foot in the conservative camp and one foot in the establishment camp. You need to make your mind up, because you are an enemy in our camp, and you're more dangerous than an enemy on our border. And you've got to make your mind up. And he had an interesting response. Gary, I can't disagree with the thing you said. Yeah, it's pretty astounding.
Well, he admitted he's an enemy.
Well, he admitted he's got one foot in the establishment camp. And so we've got to realize as American citizens that the Republican Party is not our hope either. They're as bought and paid for by the moneyed interest as the Democrats. It's just that they still claim some pledge to freedom. Now, there's a few good Republicans out there. You know, I feel good about Rand Paul and Louis Gohmert, and Roger Williams is my personal congressman. I believe he's done some good things, but they're in the minority. Our solution to our country is not going to come in the political realm. It's going to become with a number of Americans waking up and thinking critically, so that they can make informed decisions about what's going on out there. Evidence that's all around us.
It's an info war.
Very good. It's amazing you work that in.
I mean, it's true, but specifically back to the Providence. So you're there with the governor, and you say you're going to have to make this decision on a federal takeover. I mean, you told me, you said, I believe it's coming, and I mean, describe that conversation.
Yeah, I said to he was the Attorney General about to be sworn in, and I said, you're going to be the most important governor in the history of Texas. And he said, how so? And he looked perplexed. And I said, because you're going to be in a position to have to decide whether to be compliant to an out-of-control federal government or to stand for the rights and freedoms of the Texas citizens. And you could see his reaction to that. It was very, very meaningful to him. And just 2 weeks ago, we saw the evidence of him making that kind of decision when he ordered the Texas National Guard to observe all of these special op troops that are going to be operating in Texas under the Jade Helm program.
And, quote, doing suspicious things. And then they give speeches and admit this at one city council, and then go and speak in Bastrop, the county council, and say they never said any of that. I mean, it's just, we have their own document.
Yeah, you remember Jack LaLanne, the exercise guy?
Yes.
Yeah, most people do. He had the longest running TV. He was a friend of mine, and he used to say that he always told the truth because he had such a poor memory.
Me too. I tell you, man.
Well, all these people apparently have poor memories. You know, when you're trying to keep all these stories together that are not based in fact, you end up exposing it. That's why we have an opportunity to take our country back, because the things that these people in power do are based on deceit. And they can't get away with it if enough people are thinking clearly.
Well, and that's why they want to make the world so complex and confusing with all these false stories, because I'm 41. In the past, I had a near photographic memory with text. And also photos. Now it's from stress and everything else. It's still a good memory, but not as good. I kind of, you know, they say you can make a couple hundred decisions a day, and then you start getting fuzzy. And that's why I want to work till 7 or 8 at night. But after that, it doesn't work anymore. I mean, it's like I'm kind of done, or I go take a nap. But people, my kids ask me questions, or family does, and I caught myself the last few years. I'd go, oh, yeah, this is how it is. Not lying on purpose, but not being able to remember, so just saying something. And now I've just learned how to just go, I don't remember, or I got to think about that. And I guess it's something you have to get used to. And now I realize when I ask my grandpa something, he'd go, yeah. Because, you know, you don't want to, it's that they've got the knowledge. You just don't want to dredge it all up. And I think that's where they've gotten the American people, where they're just so poleaxed with so much data that they kind of just curl up in a ball. What I'm saying is, don't curl up in a ball. Go read what the globalists are saying in the Council of Foreign Relations and Club of Rome and Bilderberg and Davos. They're in the news today calling for planetary government run by them. That's, though, because that's in scholarly papers between themselves. Then they have CNN come out and say it doesn't exist. But if you just, all we do is go past them to the executive orders, to the Jade Helm document, to the, as a corporate executive, you go to the bottom line, to the corporate papers. I mean, you just get past all the flim-flam and all the stuff to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, just stay on message is what we all have to do. You know, I have, at my age, I have more of a Polaroid memory. Okay, I have to take the picture and let it sit there and develop.
Exactly.
Before I can remember it. But people, if they stay on the basic facts, which is, you're not getting the truth from the media. It's bought and paid for. If we're over in Ukraine picking a fight with a nuclear opponent, it's probably not the best idea. These are not concepts that are complicated or too difficult. But stay on message and really think about the things that are important. Printing money to buy your own debt. It's a real simple concept. You don't have to understand derivatives and all that kind of stuff. Just a bad idea. No country in history has been able to do it and survive.
How far do you think it can go? I mean, how much? Because obviously we've gone past Weimar, past Zimbabwe in the total real metric of money, digital issuances. Now they've got computers and more manipulative systems, but we're seeing the signs of it everywhere. I mean, how far, as a real business expert, a guy who Bootstrap started one of the most successful chains in history, and other corporations. I was reading online in Forbes, you've started dozens of different successful companies. And so and I really respect that. That's rock star to me. It's people that are actually entrepreneurs. I know Paul DeJoria. I mean, I think he's a rock star. He's a patriot as well, but kind of keeps it on the low down a little bit. But
he lives here in Austin.
Absolutely. I bet you know him. I don't want to speak for him. We could probably get him on the show. I just kind of... Anyways, I'm not going to get into that, but I know him. How far can it go?
Well, let me give you two answers real quick. This is a great example that I shared with Senator Cornyn at dinner one day. If you took the spending of the United States government and you took away all the zeros, and let's take the $3.5 trillion that they spent this year, and you reduced it to $35,000. Okay, that would be the spending, annual spending of our household budget, and then we took in $2 trillion in taxes, and that $2 trillion includes the trust fund for Social Security and Medicare that's supposed to be set aside and saved. There's no trust fund. And there's a good example, too. There is no trust fund. There's just IOUs. There's no Social Security fund. There's no Medicare fund. It's gone. It's been spent in the general budget. But if your income is $20,000, which is $2 trillion without the zeros, and you're spending $35,000, which is $3.5 trillion without the zeros, how long can your household manage that budget? Now, here's the other problem. You've got $18 trillion in debt that has to be serviced every month. So your credit card is $180,000. So you're making 20, you're spending 35, and you're trying to service 180,000 in credit. If you were a household, you'd be bankrupt. And then if you took the unfunded liabilities, it's not just the $18 trillion our government owes. It's the Social Security. It's the federal pensions. It's all the other things. It's a minimal, conservatively, $100 trillion. Well, if you take $100 trillion and divide it among 100 million American families, which is how many of us there are, it's $1 million per family.
Let's go further. Now there's 2.2 quadrillion globally in fake derivatives that we don't owe, that they say we do. The U.S., they say, is half of those. So 1.1 trillion. If you add 1.1 trillion to 100 trillion, that's 1.2 trillion. Can we divide that to 100 million households, please?
I can't do it.
I know, I can't either. Guys, can you with a calculator do, I don't even know if the calculator goes that high, but I think it does, but divide 1.2 quadrille, 1,200 trillion into 100 million.
There you go.
It's going to be a big number.
You know what it is? It's probably $10 million per household. But, just to keep it simple, the things that I think the average American get their hand around.
For $12 million.
$1 million per family. The average family makes $50,000 a year. How are we going to pay that debt off? It's mathematically impossible.
Well, their answer is Army, tanks, checkpoints, and forced labor. It's Cloward and Piven. They collapse everything. We'll be begging for troops when there's people running around burning everything. And you got the Justice Department in there taking some problems that are there, stirring it up for a war on police, just like Ukraine, just like they financed the overthrow there. They're getting ready to do it here. Yeah. And I'll be saying bring the troops in. I mean, they've got to figure it out. Now, shifting gears into Mike Norris, and he said, hey, I don't mind talking about my dad, because he was talking about him, like he's his, biggest hero, and we were at dinner and stuff, because he said, hey, wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris, incredibly private guy. You were telling me amazing stuff. I talked to some Hollywood stunt drivers and people that I know. They go, oh, yeah, it's all true and more. He's just over the top. Some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, some of it's so cool. I don't even know if you can even tell these stories. And then Steve McQueen and everything else. over the top, into the, because we're celebrating Americana. What is more Americana than